Aloha and welcome to Connection to the Cosmos with your host, me, Dr. Lisa Thompson, where I have out of this world conversations with extraordinary people. And today I have internationally renowned psychic medium, Suzy Cherub. So really excited to bring her on in just a moment. But first, a couple of announcements. First, if you have not had a chance to grab my free 20-minute meditative journey to meet your galactic family and guides, make sure you grab that on my website, mysticmanta.com or drlisajthompson.com. And if you are coming to Hawaii, specifically to the Big Island, Kona side, come on one of my Big Island UFO tours where you will see the night sky in a whole new way using my advanced Generation 3 military night vision goggles. And for more information on that, you can visit bigislandUFOtours.com. Okay, so I'm now going to bring on Suzy. Hello, Suzy.
Hi, Lisa.
A little technical difficulty at first, but it's all good. And we're just going to have a fun conversation. But let me share with people your bio because I am so excited to talk to you today. Okay, so Suzy Cherub is an international award-winning psychic medium, published author, speaker, and intuitive coach. In her approach combining intuition, mindfulness, and self-awareness, Suzy guides others to live an intuitive and conscious life. Her mission is to help soul-centered people create fulfilling relationships and bring a sense of passion, holistic balance, and authentic happiness to their lives. Awarded International Psychic of the Year Australia in 2014, Suzy has helped thousands of people worldwide through her psychic insights and healing messages. Today, Suzy uses her intuitive gifts by empowering and teaching others to develop their own gifts and live a more intuitive, spirited life. Well, that's quite an accomplishment. International award-winning.
Dear. Yeah.
None of them have been internationally awarded that. Well, so before we get into like how you got into this career, first I would love to know, how you grew up. Spiritual, religious, something else? Like, were you always psychic?
It's really interesting because I was christened Catholic and I grew up in quite a conventional household. But in saying that, my beautiful British nana was very much into the fairies and the fae and, and just, beautiful kind of, she was open. She was just wonderful. And I lost my grandfather when I was about 3. And I started communicating with him and kind of having conversations with the family in around, granddad's got this in the drawer, please don't sit in his chair, he's coming down the stairs. And so it started from a very, very early age. And fortunately, the family were open to the idea. And so that's sort of the start. And so I guess I'm a natural psychic medium, but over the years it's developed into lots of other kind of modalities as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so, I've had a lot of people on that are psychic mediums that, they were quite awake as young children, but then it might have gotten shut down in them because of their families or, just growing up, going through your testosterone or teenage years, hormonal things, and then having a reawakening. So for you, was it just always turned on? Did it ever shut off?
Well, that's a really good question because I was a reluctant psychic medium for many years. I was in the corporate world, in high management and high sales. And of course, my intuition really helped that process. But, this kind of higher calling never really left me.
Yeah.
And I got very unwell because I used to work crazy 100-hour weeks. It was just silly stuff. And I got very unwell. And what felt like a breakdown was actually a massive breakthrough because at that point I felt I had no choice but to really leave that corporate space and follow my spiritual calling kind of full time, which is what I did do. So a bit of a journey, but I've been doing it for full time, close to about 15 years now. So there's no going back. I burnt the lifeboats. I absolutely love what I do. It has real purpose and meaning. And, I love being of service to spirit and helping the global community as well. So, but yeah, I was that kind of reluctant psychic medium that kept pushing it to the side, but it
Mhm.
never really leaves you.
Okay. Well, so I'm kind of curious because I mean, obviously, we all have these abilities, but I mean, some people are turned on at a higher volume, I guess, than others.
I love the way you explain that. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, until they really work on those muscles, those skills. But so, like when you were going through your teen years and your 20s and all that, and you're in this world, like being a psychic medium, I guess I'm thinking, dead people are coming to you and have messages for their loved ones. Was that happening, or was
It
it
does
more?
happen. Yeah, it does happen, sometimes randomly, but
Mhm.
usually I have to sort of go into the zone and tune in and tune out. And I think that's for my own psychic self-care.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's something I taught myself very early on, is to have healthy psychic kind of boundaries, and realizing that I was in control of it. It
Mhm.
wasn't in control of me. Worked that out fairly early on. But in saying that, yeah, of course it happens. Usually, unexpectedly, sometimes you could be, at the supermarket in the queue and start connecting with someone's loved one. But I'm a psychic as well, so that's kind of a different transmission altogether.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it would pop in. It would pop in. And usually when there was a healing message for someone too. So, um, yeah, I'm very much that kind of medium that loves to get the link, the evidence, but also the healing message. And
Mhm.
that healing message is usually that trigger and that activation to, like, oh, I've got to talk to this person. And, you know, but yeah, by invitation only. That's another thing I worked out too. You just can't walk up
Okay.
to people randomly. Not everyone's open to the idea, right? So,
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so when you decided, like, okay, this corporate kind of lifestyle, mainstream kind of high power, like many hours of work kind of job wasn't working, did you take baby steps to start, like, to branch out to do your psychic medium business, or were you learning other modalities? What, like, walk me through that process, because there are a lot of people that listen
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
are in that world, but they want to leave. And so,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. The decision was instant. It was like a light bulb moment. It was kind of like a real aha, this needs to happen. But in saying that, it was a progressive journey to leave that corporate space and set up my psychic healing practice full time. Um, so it was kind of progressive, I guess. Yeah. It wasn't kind of an overnight thing, although the decision was an immediate choice. Yeah.
Okay.
And because I was so unwell at the time, I went on this kind of transformational healing journey myself too.
Mm.
So, I became a Reiki master teacher. I learnt theatre healing, NLP, all sorts of, you name it. I've got, hundreds of healing modalities that I've learnt for my personal growth and healing, but
Yeah.
also so that I can weave it into my professional psychic healing practice as well. So, and it's that ever evolving journey.
Hmm.
Every year I do some kind of retreat or course or something to, just keep me inspired. And I love to be on that growth journey as well. So I guess the healing journey really triggered a lot of the modalities at the time too. So, yay, yeah.
Well, I love that. And okay, so I mean, I guess I'm going to ask you right now, how does one become an international award winning psychic? Like,
Yeah.
seriously, I'm thinking, like, okay, you're sitting on stage and you have all these psychics lined up, and like, how does,
It's a
how,
really interesting thing, but because I've come from the corporate space, I do like to be involved in professional organisations. So, even to get insurance as a psychic medium, you need to be a part of a professional body.
Okay. Yeah.
So that professional body had international connections, and they'd have like yearly awards. And, you know, one of my beautiful clients, you know, kind of, yeah, she pretty much put me up for the award. And then, you know, it was a People's Choice Award. So fortunately, I had, you know, all my beautiful kind of community kind of vote for me. And yeah, so, and there's a series of criteria.
Okay.
But, you know, it was a pretty big deal at the time because, you know, you get all those kind of media, you know, magazines and bits and pieces. And so it was fun. And it did kind of lift my profile at the
Mhm.
time too, which was fabulous. So I had more of a global, wider reach. But yeah, yeah, that's pretty much how that happens. So
Okay. Okay. That makes more sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in my former career as an interior designer and home stager, I year after year would win the best of in my category. And you know, I'm thinking I don't even know how that would happen in this career. I don't think there is such a thing. So that's why I like, yeah, I was like,
Well, there is a series of psychic tests as well, and I don't even like to say that, but it's kind of like you have to do certain things to get the tick in the box as well. So yeah, so that was kind of fun. You know, it was a fun award to get. And of course, you know, yeah, I always have my PR people going, oh, you know, you need to add that to your bio, which is what I do. So, you know, yeah, yeah.
oh,
So,
I would say it
um,
definitely elevates you, and it's an interesting talking point. Just yeah. So okay, now I have, you know, different psychic mediums on the show and different people with different clair abilities, and I know that the clairs can come in differently for different people, or some are more
yeah.
strong. So I'm curious for you, what are the ways that you're getting the information?
Oh, I love that. And I truly believe everyone has a unique psychic personality and
Mhm.
everyone has access to higher streams of consciousness. It's not just for a select few.
Yeah.
My psychic personality is clairvoyant. So my natural go-to, my primary clair is, you know, I am that visionary. I do get, you know, I do get visions.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm also clairsentient, which is that, you know, psychic, clear psychic feeling, claircognizant as well, which helps with my writing and my creative downloads and all of that. I think you develop your psychic senses, but you do tend to have a go-to psychic sense that is more that entry point. And then you can kind of like, you know, grow the others or, you know,
Yeah.
really tune into the others as well. But people love clairvoyance. They go, oh, wow, you can see, you know. So when I'm teaching psychic students, it's like, oh, I wish I was clairvoyant. And I'm going, you know, clairvoyance is fabulous, but sometimes in the early days, it felt like charades, you know. It's like, here's the picture. And I'm going, talk to me, guys, talk to me, you know, like I love claircognizance, which is that, you know, that clear
Knowing.
psychic knowing,
Yeah.
which to me is far more accurate because you're getting that, you know, that quickening, those quick messages coming through, and that deep inner knowing. So there's no right or wrong way to correct
Right.
to connect to spirit. But yeah, the visions can be great, but until you develop your other psychic clairs, it's a little bit like they show me something and I've got to try and work out what they're telling me, you know. uh, Fortunately, you know, I don't have to rely on that anymore. But yeah, yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, clairvoyance is actually probably my least of all my clairs. And for me, just, and again, I just want to share this with the audience because sometimes when you don't necessarily know that you have these clair abilities, but you do. And so sometimes, like claircognizance, it's like, well, I just know. I just know. I don't have any proof. I just know the answer. I know something. And the outside world, I think, can have a hard time dealing with that or believing it because they want proof, they want evidence, right? They want the
Yes. How do you know, Lisa? Like, how do you
right.
know that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. You know,
So how
clair
would you
cognizance is
address that?
amazing. Pardon?
Yeah. How would you address that with your students, might maybe that are like, so that they're not doubting themselves?
I love that because claircognizance do tend to be, you know, analytical, creative, intelligent. Um, I love claircognizance because it is that deep inner knowing, you
Mm-hmm.
know, trusting that can be, trusting that initial knowing can be a
Yeah.
little bit tricky when you're claircognizant because claircognizance do like to analyze things, and there can be that kind of like talking yourself out of it, or
Yeah.
it's like,
Totally.
yeah, and I actually love that too because it's inquisitive. You have integrity. Claircognizance always have integrity. How do you kind of tell the outside world? I guess, you just have to have that self-trust, trust in that initial knowing. Didn't Einstein, he was claircognizant and he would meditate for hours, come out of meditation and go, I know the answer to that. And
Mm.
they'd go, well, how do you know the answer to that? And he'd go, I just know. Now we've got to go and find the evidence. So it would be, he'd do it the other way around. A lot of
Yeah.
scientists, need the evidence before they decide they know it, where he had this incredible claircognizance where he just kind of knew things
Mm-hmm.
through trance meditation. So, yeah, it's a tricky one because,
Yeah.
claircognizance do like to overthink things. They do get stuck on repetitive thought. But yeah, trust in that initial
Mm-hmm.
knowing and you'll
Gotcha.
never be wrong. 9 times out of 10, you would be right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the spiritual academics. You're the intelligent, emotional intelligence, intelligence, that yeah, it's the overthinking, everything has a shadow, and it's that overthinking, trying to let go of that when you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
what's interesting, I love that you bring up Einstein and the whole science aspect, because when I was going through my graduate school and even my postdoc, doing my studies, I I had had so many different spiritual experiences growing up that science couldn't explain. And there were things like I was in zoology, marine biology, and I know Sasquatch is real. I know fairies are real, dragons are real, unicorns, all that. And everyone thought I was crazy. And I'm like, I know they're real. I know it. Right. And so it was
Exactly.
hard to be in that mainstream conservative academic world, um,
Yes.
in that
Yeah.
reality. And so I didn't last long because it ended up not feeling good. Right. So,
Yeah, that's right. Like, it's such a magical way to live, isn't it? When you are open to spirit and, the nature spirits talk to you, the cosmic guides talk to you. It's just beautiful. Everything has an energy, an energetic imprint, that's scientific as well as spiritual.
yeah.
Everything has an energy, right? So, yeah, of course, yeah, I know it's tricky. It's tricky,
Yeah.
especially for a claircognizant, because you do have that analytical, strategic thing going on as well. But yeah. Once upon a time, science and spirituality were one. Back in Merlin times,
Yeah.
there was a really strong connection, and over the years, it's kind of separated. But once upon a time, people were quite open to energetic,
Mhm.
spiritual, beautiful guides and all that beautiful stuff. So, yeah, a little bit challenging in that scientific community. Some of them are open to it, but most aren't. Yeah,
Some. And
yeah,
I feel, yeah, now way more people are open to it in the sciences, right? Because you have consciousness degrees now, and you have quantum mechanics being really
that's
understood
it.
at a deeper level, right? And so
Yes.
I'm just, 20 plus years, too early, but that's okay. I was not meant to be a scientist. I just was meant to have that as my background. It's all good.
Yeah. Maybe in Merlin times you would have been that beautiful scientist, that beautiful sorceress, that beautiful enchantress, that,
Yes.
medicine woman, yeah.
Yeah.
But these days it's like, oh no, that's separate, like, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and you mentioned clairsentience because that's another one that I have really strongly. That and I it was throughout my childhood too, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew that, like, okay. I mean, now looking back, I really know that that was very enhanced because and it would kind of go along hand in hand with the claircognizance, because
Yes.
I would get the knowing, and then I would get like the full body chills of my, and so getting that extra confirmation. So I'm
Yes.
curious if you can speak to that, because again, you help teach people how to
Yes.
tap in.
Well, psychic senses run through your physical body temple. So when you open up your physical senses, your psychic senses can run through your body. Physical divination's so great, and I love that you brought that up, Lisa. That you got the tingles, the spine tingles, the spidey sense, the validation through your physical body. It's such a beautiful way to get that kind of that real knowing. Your body's like a pendulum. You can, if you're leaning in, it's usually a yes. If your body throws you back, it's usually a no. Kinesiology, there's so many beautiful modalities that really tune into that clairsentient psychic sense. It's a physical sense. It's that
Yeah.
getting that, that beautiful kind of intuitive insight through your physical body. You can actually sense it and feel it. It's brilliant. So I, really encourage students to pay attention to the spidey sense, to the tingles, to the, for me, if I'm reading for someone and I get the tingles up my left side, it's an immediate yes,
Okay.
yeah. Um, so yeah, it's not like Hollywood, where everything's happening out here. There is no separation. We are all one. So
Yes.
once you have an understanding that there's, it's multidimensional out there,
Yeah.
but we're still connected to the multidimensional, to that expansive energy. Once you understand that and you can kind of sense it in your physical body temple, your psychic abilities are going to go through the roof because you get it. You get that there's no disconnection, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, and then my other one, and not that we're going to go through all the clairs, although we kind of have.
I love this. Yeah, this is great.
Just, clairaudience is one that it comes in different times. And
Yes.
it's just really interesting. I was in Peru this year, and on the very last day of the trip, we were at this place called the Tridimensional Stargate, right
Oh,
by Lake
wow.
Titicaca. And what you're supposed to do is there's kind of a notched out area that you stand in, the sandstone, massive megalithic kind of cutout of this mountain. And you stand in there and you can put your forehead on this little hole. And some people have like transported through the hole, or they get visions or other things. And so I wasn't sure what was going to happen to me, but I'm standing there in this, and so I had a full on clairaudient message come through to me. I didn't have the visions, but I had, a full on message. And so,
Yes.
um, but I do sometimes, like, I know when some of my ETs are around, I'll get a ringing in my ear that is not tinnitus. And that's one thing. Well,
Oh,
people, they get confused. Well, what's the difference between communication and downloads versus tinnitus? And so maybe since you teach this, can you speak to that?
well, maybe there is no difference. You know, yeah, my beautiful sister-in-law has that kind of ringing in the ears constantly. And, she was off seeing hundreds of specialists, doing the white noise meditations, you name it. And I just said to her one day, they're your spirit guides communicating with you. Just ask them to turn the volume down
Mm.
while you're sleeping. And, and then finally, I got a message one day going, oh my goodness, I asked them to turn it down and they turned it down. I'm going, yes, that's it. That's it. It may not work every time, but it's worth a try, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe some people have a physical ailment. I don't know, but I get the ringing in the ears usually when I'm, not listening to spirit, or perhaps it's coming through on a different transmission, and I just need, at some point, it will come through to me in a more intuitive, practical way, who knows? But
Yeah.
I totally believe it. And I love that you got that clairaudient message so clearly. Clairsentients are often clairaudient as well,
Mm.
which is brilliant, to get that very clear verbal message from spirit. I love it. So
Well,
good.
I mean, and that kind of, am I making this up? Am I saying it to myself?
Yes.
And it's like
Have
it's
I got schizophrenia? What's going on?
well, and that's the thing. Actually, I've had a couple people on the show where I have talked about schizophrenia versus like, or are they just experiencing other things? Because
Yes.
my great grandmother was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and this was, so I'm 50, so that was back probably in the 40s or 50s that she got diagnosed, and I got a hit one day that no, she was not schizophrenic. She just had abilities that they didn't understand, and maybe she didn't even understand.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes. My nephew, he was getting mediumship visions, and I just kept saying, he's a medium. And everyone's going, oh, yeah, I know, but we'll just get him checked out. We'll just get him checked out. The psychiatrist said, this child does not have schizophrenia. This child, she didn't say this child is a medium, but she
yeah,
said, this child does not have schizophrenia. You're fine, you know.
yeah.
So I believe there's a lot of children, adults out there that, are diagnosed with, even autism. I
Mm,
feel like, autistic children are incredibly psychic.
yeah.
Um, you know, that's why they're often in their own little worlds, because it's like, oh, do we have to talk? Do we? Can't we just be telepathic? Like, well, no, you actually do have to talk at some point. But yeah, I know. Look, I'm not saying mental illness isn't real. I know it is. But in
Yeah,
saying that, I think there's a lot out there that, have been diagnosed with schizophrenia, or that really are just highly psychic and have mediumship ability. It's a thing. Yeah, without a doubt.
yeah. Well, so okay, so I'm with the mediumship. When people are coming to you, I mean, I guess, are people coming to you as clients being like, okay, talk to my dead loved one, or are they just coming to you for whatever information, psychic, mediumship, whatever wants to come through? How do clients come to you?
Terrific question, Lisa. Some people come for straight mediumship,
Hmm.
where they've lost a child or a loved one or a partner or whatever it might be, even pets too, Um, but yeah, the majority of my psychic healing practice is psychic readings. So, most people will come when they're at a crossroads, when they're, yeah, when they've got a decision to make, or they're having issues in their love life, or whatever it might be.
Hmm.
Completely different transmission, completely
Right.
different vibration. When you do mediumship, it's hard to explain, but you tune into a completely different energy than what you would when you're doing psychic reading. It's quite different. I can do both in the one sitting, but I
Mhm.
do have to do a shift.
Okay.
I do have to do like an intentional, deliberate shift, and I can do that.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'll be doing a psychic reading and, granddad will pop in or whatever. And then I ask them if they're open to it, because not everybody's open to it. I've
Okay.
been doing a psychic reading or a healing session with someone or a coaching session with someone, and a departed loved one will drop in with a message,
Hmm.
and I've gone to give the message, and they go, well, I'm not here for that. I'm here for that. And I go, oh, okay, fair enough. So I've learnt to go, are you open to receiving a message from, Auntie Karen or whatever, and, most people will go, absolutely. Some people will go, oh, no, I'm not here for that. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's interesting. I've learnt that, that psychic etiquette, if you like. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
Well,
Yeah.
and one of my early guests on the show, he's a psychic medium, and so I've had a couple sessions with him. And what's interesting is none of my family ever comes through. Like no one I'm directly related to. The only human that ever comes
Well,
through.
not from this planet anyway.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and so the only one that ever earthbound has come through is my husband's mother, who passed away when he was 23. I never met her, but she apparently loves coming into my sessions and coming, like, she loves being around and, and having that outlet. But no, yeah. So who comes through for me are galactic or, extraterrestrial, cosmic.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
And so does that happen with some of your clients too, where it's like
Oh,
humans?
absolutely. I've been reading for someone. I've got this beautiful, he's actually my chiropractor. And it's interesting because it's happened in a session with him where his little galactic healing guide will pop in. But I've
Mhm.
actually been on the table when he's been doing, massage or whatever.
Yeah.
And this little galactic guide is like walking around with him. And one day I kind of worked up the courage to say, do you know that you've got a galactic healing guide? And he went, absolutely. I've never had any. I've kind of always known it, but I've never had anybody like realize that. That's amazing. Yeah, yeah. And I feel like he's getting he's a really good healer, and I feel like he's getting a lot of his education from a
Mhm.
completely different realm, if you like, or whatever. It's amazing. But yeah, I definitely do see. Even as a young child, I
Mhm.
used to have a connection with what I called light beings.
Okay.
I knew they weren't departed loved ones. I knew they weren't, spirit guides that I was born with. I feel like they were visitors that used to just pop in and give me very high vibrational messages. Um, and later in life, I thought they might have been angels, but I've worked out they're not angels because angels have a completely different energy again. The light beings to me are, Pleiades guides or, whatever. They're just beautiful. The energy is amazing. I just love it. So the answer to that is absolutely yes. I do have some, I call them star guides, whatever you want to call them. It's just a label, right? Yeah.
Right. It is. It is. But okay. So if one, I guess this is again curiosity question from your perspective. So if someone like me is not having my human family like come in during these mediumship sessions, um, what and it's others. So what would be your perspective
They're
on
your
that?
relatives.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Have you ever heard that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good, good, good. Um, yeah, I feel like we've had. If you're an old soul, you've had thousands of lifetimes on Earth, but we've also had lifetimes in
Not
other
ever.
dimensions, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like it's interesting because you said mediumship, and mediumship. When you're doing mediumship and your galactic guides are coming in, um, straight away from spirit, they're your family, they're your
Mm,
relatives, they're they're your community.
yeah.
So interesting. That doesn't happen for everyone.
Hmm.
Sometimes it can be more of a galactic guide that has come in because you're whatever, doing whatever. You can invoke spirit as well. But for you, I got family.
Yeah. Well, and I have a lot of family out there.
You do. Can't always explain that to people. I know there'd be mediums that would go, "Oh no, 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 it can't be family. It has to be, a galactic spirit guide. It's not." I'm going, "No, no, no, no. This is Lisa's family tree. It's all good.
Well, and
It's her lineage."
what's really interesting about that, just to continue that line of thought, is um, for almost 5 years ago, I was taking a psychic intuition class with my friend Lisa, who's very talented. She lives in Olympia, Washington, where I used to live. And the first night of class, she led us through a meditative journey to meet a spirit guide that would help us get extra information from that, psychic world or that from source. And I have met other spirit guides, humans and animals. I'm a past life
Yes.
regression therapist, and so I met those kinds of guides. But this time, I met who ended up being my Arcturian family. I didn't know who they were, but their message to me was, "You are one of us. We are one of you. We are family." And so that was the first group that I really truly connected with. Like I have other groups from my childhood that I've been on craft. I'm part of the hybrid program. I'm like, I've got a lot of connection, but the Arcturians, when they came to me, and they were just this pure love. And so over the last 5 years, I've developed that connection. Now I channel them, and they have been a
Oh,
bridge
wow.
for me to expand into my other aspects of myself, of these other ET races as well. But they were like the safe kind of comforting bridge to make me feel okay, like, okay, I can do this work.
Oh, I love that so much. That reassuring message, that sense of belonging,
Mm-hmm.
that unconditional, very high vibrational love,
Yeah.
So beautiful. Yeah. And it's interesting, yeah, because I feel like I've got connections to a couple of galactic tribes, to be honest. But yeah, definitely. There seems to be that beautiful kind of go-to family, doesn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, so actually, so the groups, I'm curious about the groups that you connect with. You mentioned the Pleiadians. And
Always
so,
had a fascination with the Palladians.
okay.
Yeah, and Palladian mythology as well, because let's be honest, all over the planet,
Mm-hmm.
almost all of the beautiful Indigenous First Nations people, like lots of different, you know, eras and societies and communities, whatever, have all had a similar connection to the Pleiades,
Yeah.
and they interpret it slightly differently because of their own mythology and their own belief systems. But there's
Mm-hmm.
this really strong similarity between the mythology,
Yes.
and I'm fascinated with that, as well as the historical aspect of it. But I'm also fascinated with the here and now as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've always felt a very strong a connection to the Pallades, but recently, um, the blue avian, blue
Uh,
avian, yeah. And I tell you why I felt a connection. That was an interesting connection because it was more of when I was reading about their qualities and their beautiful spiritual aspects, it was kind of like, oh my goodness, this is me. And of course, when I connected into that energy,
mm-hmm.
I connected to them. So that was
Okay.
more of an invocation through almost like a remembering when I was reading about them. Does that make sense?
It does.
So it's kind of like the Palladians have been there since day dot for me as a small child.
Mm-hmm.
The light beings, the tall light beings, um, the blue avian. This has been a recent realization. This has been like fantastic because it's kind of like reading about them, and it may have even been on your site. I don't know, but I was reading about them, and I'm going, this is me. I feel this is me.
Well,
Which is
and
this knowing.
yeah, not as many people know about them or connect with them. And that's one of the groups that I have ushered in this energy this year. But
Yes.
I got to meet them in that psychic class too. So 5 years ago, I got to connect with them. And again, I like when I took that class, when I was first meeting these different groups, I had no clue who they were. I just was
Yeah.
because I've been an experiencer, UFOs and ETs my whole life, but more limited in what that experience was. And so now I feel like, okay, there's this whole new world expanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think that blue avian energy is coming through more strongly over the last 12 months?
I would say yes. Yes.
Because I'm surprised that I haven't connected earlier. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Well, again, they're way, way higher dimensional than a lot of these groups are. And so,
right. Oh, interesting.
yeah. So they, again, not as much interaction, with Earth,
No.
fewer
They're
people.
like
So,
light too. They come through for me like blue light emissions.
which
Like,
would make sense because being at that level, they're energy, they're not physical. We
yeah,
just
yeah,
depict
yeah.
it as a physical reality, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And to be honest, I've seen that blue light a lot, but didn't actually interpret it to be like, yeah, a different, yeah, energy. Does that make sense? So, yeah, I love that. Yeah, because I'm feeling that energy very strongly
Mhm.
lately. Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, you know, where I don't know how it feels in Australia, but where even though things are really dark, things
Yes.
are about ready to shift. At least in my timeline, things are shifting, and so I think these high
I feel they're shifting.
energy beings now are they're coming to help us usher in that
Yes.
era. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. I feel like we've had, a massive paradigm shift. It's still happening,
Right.
and the dinosaurs are clinging to the old paradigm. Um, you know, yeah, I feel like there is definitely a positive shift. It's progressive. We're not quite there yet, but I feel like you're right, Lisa. I feel like that's why they're coming through, because it's like, okay, you're ready to hear the message now. Like, this is
Yeah.
getting, maybe we're more in alignment with it.
Yes, I think so. So, okay, I'm just going to put you on the spot and you can tell me, sorry, I'm not going to answer this or I can't get it. Okay. So I know some psychics, they don't like giving timelines because timelines can shift. And I know at
Yes,
some level, so not
yes.
so never not necessarily predicting when something's going to happen, but there's more information that's coming out about us actually participating with the galactic family, like within our lifetime, like within the next 10 to 30 years, of where there will be open contact, connection. They will be here on Earth, we'll be out
Yeah.
there. So I'm curious what you might see as that, as a
You
reality.
know, I love it when you ask a question, because when you ask a question, you get an answer, and you're quite right. Like time, is an illusion. But in saying that, if you ask me a question, I often get an answer,
Mm-hmm.
and the answer I got was 10, 12 years, something like that. But I also got a message from Spirit that it's already happening.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
sort of happening now, like it's
it,
hidden somehow. Um, but I do believe, yeah, there's going to be that kind of direct contact. Let's just say between 10 and 15 years. But I did get the number 12. I feel like that's a significant number.
okay.
Um, yeah. So, yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah.
Okay.
One of
So
my spirit guides is the Oracle of Delphi. And with the Oracle of Delphi, the way she worked, because she was an earthborn living human.
mm,
Um, but yeah, the way she worked is if you ask a question, you get an answer.
hmm.
And because I'm so connected with her, if you ask a question, I do get an answer. I love a question
Okay.
because it has intention,
Yeah.
deliberate focus.
Right.
Ask a question, ask and you shall receive, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, but it always comes with a disclaimer. It's not, it can be open to interpretation. But to be honest, usually if I get a number, I've got a pretty high strike rate with the
Okay.
number. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Because again,
Sometimes it'll be like months, not years, or
yeah.
weeks, not months. But
Right.
when you asked the question, I saw the number 12.
Okay. Well, and you're right. There already is kind of contact, and I mean, people like me are experiencing that. But so I'm thinking more of a societal level where it's a little
Yes.
more
Well, they
mainstream.
can't ignore it, right?
Right.
They can't stick their head in the sand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, for those listening or watching, start opening your minds to embracing diversity. Like, love,
Diversity.
love
Yes.
everyone here on planet Earth, all the animals, all the weird things. Get used to that and
Yes.
open your minds and your hearts.
That's it. And I love that you've said it that way, because, unity and diversity is one of my big messages.
Is it?
But yeah, why not? Galactic diversity too.
Yeah,
Yes, why not? It's pretty arrogant to think we're the only kind of, living race, like human, whatever. I don't know. To me, it's like, it's absurd that you wouldn't be open to it.
yeah. So, okay, recently I was talking to someone who is channeling a 12th dimensional group, and I asked about So I lead these UFO tours here in Hawaii, and
I'm going to
we
get there one day on the Big
we're,
Island with you, Lisa, with those,
yeah,
what is it? We've got special goggles, have we?
yes, the night vision goggles. And so we see stuff all the time, and I see stuff with my bare eyes. But, right now we don't have craft like landing in the field with us or things like that. And so I was just like, a curiosity question to this group, the creators. And I'm like, so are craft going to just start landing? And if so, what's kind of the time frame? And so the time frame that they gave was like within a couple years. And I'm like, oh, for real? Like we're I'm going to
Yeah.
be coming in like that. So what kind of answer do you get there?
Yeah. I feel like there'll be moments, you
Yeah.
know, and they can kind of hide the moments, can't they? They can't hide the big, we're here, guys. Like we're not
Yeah.
going anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did get a yes to that. I feel like there will be, I guess, sightings, but more obvious
Yeah.
encounters, more obvious sightings. But I do feel like in the future it'll be more of a it won't be unusual.
Mhm.
Now it's unusual. Like
Right.
it's like you're just not to us, but to a lot of people, it's like, what was
Yeah.
that? Did I just
Yeah.
see that? Like, well, you and I go, oh, how cool's that?
Right.
Did you get that? Did you see that? Where other people are going, that's terrifying. What is that? Oh. Yeah. So I got a yes to that, but I feel like it'll be those kind of situations where perhaps they can hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what's really interesting is people who come on our tour, the ones who are really open, we see a lot more activity than the ones that are like, "Ooh, I'm skeptical." So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that, again, the more that people are opening their minds to other things existing outside of this physical dimension, that they'll be able to experience more.
Yeah. Absolutely. Be inquisitive, be open. You don't have to make a decision on it, but at
Right.
least be open to the idea of it.
Yeah.
You know, um, that's how we kind of, yeah, we discover new things, right? Like if we all go around thinking that nothing's ever going to change or nothing's opening up, or I feel like it's good to be inquisitive and ask questions, but also be completely open to the idea as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
But you're right. It's like I think if you're open to it, the veil's lifted.
Yes.
Right. If you're not open to the idea, they just can't see it, because it's like, often I'll be doing a session with someone and there'll be bird song in the background. Oh, and I'll go, oh, can you hear the bird song? And they go, no. I go, are you joking? You can't hear it? Right. Like, you know what I mean? It's because you're in alignment with it. You're
Mm-hmm.
open to it. You're in tune with it. Um, and it's not, hierarchical or good or bad, we're all the same, but it's more in regards to just being open is opening the portal. Absolutely.
Okay. I love that. Opening the portal. Okay.
Yes. Like gift of free will, we have
Yes,
gift of free will.
we
So,
do.
and that is a universal law. So if
Mhm.
you give permission for the veil to be lifted or the portal to be open, it will be open.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you
Important.
decide you want to keep it shut, you'll keep it shut. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in our last, like maybe 5 minutes or so of time, what would you love for the audience to know about either you, your work, or any great messages that you want to share?
Oh, living an intuitive life is living in your own authenticity.
Mm.
It's living with magic. It's living, it's being present and truly experiencing life in a completely different way. So, I encourage you to open up your physical and psychic senses, be inquisitive, be, open to magic. It's such a beautiful way to live, as opposed to the autopilot, Groundhog Day, going through the motions, head in the sand, not making up your own mind. You know, it's a completely different way to live. Yeah. Yeah. So that would be my message. Like, yeah, I think, and we've covered that really, you know, be
Yeah.
open to the magic, be open and inquisitive and intuitive, and you'll live a much happier life. You'll live with much more meaning and
Mhm.
purpose in your life, without a doubt. Yeah.
Len, okay,
Yay.
so even though you're physically in Australia, I'm assuming you will work with clients all over the world, right?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm a published author as well. So I've got, you know, published oracle card decks and yeah, and fortunately I do have beautiful clients all over the world, you know, even in Iceland and Ireland and, you know, yeah, it's wonderful. I love the global community
Mhm.
and, you know, being surrounded by like-minded, love-hearted people, and thank goodness for, you know, Zoom and modalities like this that we can actually communicate
Yes,
and have these beautiful conversations. It's so great. I love it.
it is. So how can people find you? What's your website and what socials are you on?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook for many years. I've got my own website. If you Google me, Suzy Cherub, it should pop up. But yeah, yeah, I'm pretty available. I like to be, you know, engaging and accessible as well. So yeah, I'm pretty easy to find, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here today with me, for having this beautiful conversation and having another person to add to my soul tribe.
Yes. Yes. Oh, my daughter Beck, she said, "Oh my goodness, Mum, you're just going to love Lisa. You two speak the same language," and she's not wrong. It's just so wonderful to speak to an intelligent woman that's also intuitive, that's also inquisitive. It's beautiful. I love it.
Well, thank you. And for the audience listening or watching, thank you so much for being here as always. And I will see you next time on Connection to the Cosmos. Aloha.